You read the caption right. Me and all three of my sons need kidney transplants. I have never done a video like this before. This will be my first vlog style video. If you don't know me, I'm Taylor. I'm a labor and delivery nurse, a pediatric nurse practitioner, a mom, and a widow. And I share a lot of my grief journey, my educational content, mostly on TikTok, but I'm branching out. And my followers recently were interested in a video I posted talking about why me and my 3 children need kidney transplants. So I thought, what better video for my first vlog to talk about our experience with chronic kidney disease. So taking it way back to when I was younger, I was born healthy, no problems, and I think around age 4, I had a weird color when I peed one day. My mom obviously knew this wasn't normal. She took me to the doctor. I was diagnosed with a chronic kidney disease. Mind you, this is about 25 years ago at this point. I didn't really know what it was. I went as far as getting a kidney biopsy when I was in kindergarten, where they went in and they took a piece of my kidney out. They analyzed it, and from this, they came up with a diagnosis called Alport syndrome. Way back then, there wasn't really much known about Alport syndrome except for the fact that it was a slow progressing chronic kidney disease. At least for me, that's what it looked like it was going to be. So throughout my childhood, we didn't really do much about it. I would go to the nephrologist fairly regularly. I would get labs drawn, they would dip my urine, and we would move on. That was the end of it. Unfortunately, due to some circumstances in my life and regarding what was going on in my family at that time, I did stop going to the nephrologist probably around age 15 years old. I had been going probably for about 10 years, nothing was happening. And with like the chaos that was going on in my life at that time, it wasn't really a top priority, especially with nothing being done. So I didn't go. I figured I've had this my whole life. I'm gonna be good, all is well. They didn't say anything else about it. Fast forward, I met my late husband. We had my oldest son. Everything was fine and dandy. A couple years later, we had 2 more sons. Fast forward, years later, here I am living my adult life, and I have 3 sons. And my oldest son was about 5 years old at the time. And when he peed that day, he had like some blood in his urine. And I had always had blood and protein in my urine. That was always the biggest thing with my kidney condition. So I didn't freak out. I said, you know, it's okay. He likely has the same kidney condition that I have. But here I am. I think I was like 26 years old at that time and doing well. So I didn't freak out. I took him to the nephrologist and I got him tested. At this point, 25 plus years later, things are a lot different. You don't need to go as far as a kidney biopsy. So we did a bunch of lab work. You can do genetic testing, which in his case was just a cheek swab. And that's all it took for them to diagnose him with Alport syndrome. This is where things started to go downhill. With research being a little bit more up to date and technology being a little bit more up to date, I was actually able to learn more about my son's kidney condition than I was ever able to learn about mine. So with this genetic testing, I was able to learn that my son actually has what we call X-linked Alport syndrome. There are multiple versions of Alport syndrome. I didn't know what that meant. After many long conversations, I did find out that that meant that my son was going to have this condition. It is the worst version for males, and it is almost 100% guaranteed that he's going to need a kidney transplant. Obviously, this was really traumatizing news. I probably went through one of the darkest times in my life, but obviously this was before I lost my husband. So now I will say in the past couple years, those were 2 of the darkest times in my life. So I spiraled, and then I had already had my other 2 boys at this time, and they weren't really showing any symptoms, but obviously my head went to, do my other boys have this? There was a 50-50 chance that they did or they didn't. Because if you don't know, males are XY. They get 1 X from their mom, and females are XX. So I have 1 affected X and 1 unaffected X. So they had a 50-50 chance of getting the bad X for me. And unfortunately, about a month later, I did find out that both of my other sons also have Alport syndrome, X-linked version. So now here we are. I believe this was 2023. I'm finding out that all 3 of my sons have Alport syndrome like me, and they have it worse than me, and it is guaranteed that they will need a kidney transplant. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? Healthcare is so progressed these days. It's okay. You know, they're going to live their life, and if and when they need a kidney transplant, we'll deal with that when we get there. And, you know, I try to be a positive person, but then I found out that it is generally a faster progressing disease in males, and that sort of the sweet spot for when this happens, like that early adolescence, early 20s age. And I lost it. This is when I had my first ever real like panic attack. I was in my bed. I couldn't sleep. I remember my husband was downstairs watching sports. I was on my phone. I was doing all of my research. I was searching for answers, searching for cures. I was so far into my research that I was weighing pros and cons of which dialysis I was going to pick for my children. Mind you, they're all doing well right now. So why did my head go there? Why was I going this deep? I don't know. I think I was just spiraling. I mean, rightfully so. Side note, the version that I have is a milder course in women. So not all women with the version of Alport syndrome that I have will need a kidney transplant. It's generally slower progressing. I think mine being external factors, which is why my kidney function is declining rapidly. I had multiple kids and I chose to do that. I did know that I had a chronic kidney condition. What I didn't know is how rapidly my kidney function would go down after my pregnancies. And my third pregnancy was not planned, and they're Irish twins, so it was back to back. And I think that put a huge toll on my body. I don't regret my children though. I also didn't know how serious this could be for males. I think the disconnect happened as I stopped going to the nephrologist around 14, 15, probably where reproductive counseling would have started to happen. And, you know, it was just a big miss. I kind of look at it like a blessing in disguise, because had I known that I may have passed this down to my kids, I likely wouldn't have had my 3 boys, and I don't regret them at all. So I am almost thankful that my life ended up this way, and it kind of is what it is at this point, and this is what we're gonna have to deal with. So once I came to terms with the fact that this is something I was gonna have to deal with, I wasn't gonna be able to change it, I felt so hopeless. And in my head, I was like, I have to do something. Like, what am I gonna do to get out of this dark hole of just like hopelessness? I am very much a, okay, what are we gonna do about it type of girl. So I decided I was going to raise money for research for the Alport Syndrome Foundation. And that's what I did. About 2 months after the diagnosis, I had this huge bingo. So many family and friends and like a lot of people from my neighborhood came, and we raised almost $10,000 that all went directly to the Alport Syndrome Foundation. I was very proud of that. I think it aided a lot in like my healing process when I found out that information. So I was very grateful to everyone who helped kind of organize it. And from there, I decided, what else can we do? I mean, like, we're just sitting ducks and this is just gonna happen to us. What can we do? So we joined a research study at Johns Hopkins Hospital. The part that I did struggle with is that my kids are already needing to get blood work at the nephrologist when they go there regularly. Do I want them to get additional blood work every so often at this research study, because this means they're getting blood work like every couple months? And I struggled with that. And in my head, I'm like, I know they don't understand it now, but one day they will. If they could use us and find out information that could maybe not only help us, but other people in the future, then how can I miss out on that? Because remember, back to the beginning of the story, when I got diagnosed with Alport syndrome 25 years ago, we didn't even know a lot of these different forms and how they could affect males and females very differently. 25 years later, and we have all these advancements and we know much more. So who knows in 20 years what more research they might have and how this could help my kids in the future. So those are the things I did. That was about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago when this all started. So where are we at with it right now? My kidney function is a little bit stabilized. I am considered stage 3B chronic kidney disease. I'm doing okay for now, but it did have a rapid decline, and we'll see what happens. Children are all doing okay right now. They are all on a preventative medication. It's called lisinopril, which is a blood pressure medication, but it's a generic form. It's a liquid form. There's a little bit of research that shows it could potentially prolong when they need their kidney transplant. So it is in no way a cure or a fix, and will it stop them needing a kidney transplant? Likely not, but possibly prolonging them needing a kidney transplant. So once I found this out, I put all of them on the lisinopril, which is what they're on right now. All of their kidney functions are doing well right now. The thing with this chronic kidney disease is it is progressive. So the kidney function is already damaged at baseline. It will continue to take more and more damage over time until the kidney function eventually becomes not normal and then fails. When that will happen for them, we don't really know. So the geneticist basically told me, based on the type of condition that they have and the research on it, that I should anticipate all 3 of them needing kidney transplants at some point in their life. It's just a matter of when. And that's where we are with it now. I hope you guys follow along on our journey. Anyways, that was my first vlog style video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Should I do more of these? I don't know. Let me know below.